This video is at the request of Chris Polk 6648. Two verses, we're going to look at them. Romans chapter 7, Paul is describing a Jew who has believed in Christ is no longer under the law. And he's using marriage as the foundation that describes that. Do you not know, brothers and sisters, for I am speaking to those who know the law, that the law has authority over someone only as long as that person lives. For example, by law, a married woman is bound to her husband as long as he is alive. But if her husband dies, she is released from the law that binds her to him. In marriage, marriage is a lifelong covenant, a lifelong commitment, and you are binding yourself to another person. So in this case, the husband and wife are bound to each other, and that is a lifelong commitment. So a married woman is bound to her husband as long as he is alive. But if her husband dies, she's released from that law that binds her to him. If the husband dies, she's no longer bound to her husband. That covenant is only in this life. Once one of the parties in a marriage dies, then the covenant of marriage is null and void. So whoever is left alive, for instance, what Paul's saying is, if the husband dies and the woman's left alive, she is free to remarry. She can remarry. Verse 3, so then if she has sexual relations with another man while her husband is still alive, she is called an adulteress. But as long as her husband's still alive, she can't have sex with another man. Now, this isn't a full description Paul's giving about the ways that we can get divorced. This is not Paul describing divorce in any way. He's just using marriage as a point to prove that to die to marriage means you're free to remarry. That's the main point he's making. He's not even giving an exhaustive list of ways that you can get out of marriage and all of that stuff. That's not his point. His point is like a woman whose husband has died, she's free to remarry. So also the Jew has died to the law, and therefore the Jew can marry, in a sense, Christ. He can be married to the new covenant. He can be part of the new covenant and no longer be bound to the law. That's the point he's making there. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39 is the other verse that he asked. A woman is bound to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes. But he must belong to the Lord. The same case is just making the established point that marriage is a lifelong commitment, and that essentially death is the way that ends marriage. Of course, divorce is another way. There are certain cases where divorce is allowable by God. But generally speaking, marriage is a lifelong commitment, and it's bound until one of the parties, a husband or wife, passes on. If a spouse dies, then the other spouse who's alive is free to remarry. That's the point Paul's making here in 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, the difference is than Romans. 1 Corinthians, he's actually talking about marriage. A lot of this chapter has to do with marriage and various marital instructions. So hopefully that answered your question.